The rain was coming down in heavy sheets the night it happened, thick drops hammering the windshield, blurring the streetlights until they looked like glowing orbs floating in the darkness. I should have gone home. I should have kept driving. But something pulled me toward that graveyard at the edge of town, a place people whispered about but never dared to linger near after sundown. What I saw there that night, what I felt, has haunted me ever since. It started as just another late-night drive. Work had run over, my shirt was still damp with sweat, and I was bone-tired. I took the long route home to clear my head, cutting through the back roads that snaked past old farms and shuttered motels. The rain had been steady all evening, tapping against the roof of my car like impatient fingers, but now it turned into a full storm. My wipers squealed with every pass, fighting to keep the glass clear. That's when I passed the graveyard. It wasn't a grand cemetery, no ornate iron gates or marble angels, just a patch of fenced land, choked with crooked headstones and leaning crosses. Locals called it the Hollow Rest. You'd miss it if you didn't know where to look, hidden behind a thicket of blackened trees that pressed close to the road. I'd seen it plenty of times during the day, but at night, under the storm, it looked different, alive somehow. And that's when I saw the light. A faint glow hovered at the far edge of the graveyard. At first, I thought it was a reflection, maybe headlights bouncing off wet stone, but as I slowed down, the glow seemed to move. It drifted between the rows, slipping past the headstones like it was searching for something. Now, I'm not the type to chase after ghost stories, but exhaustion does strange things. Curiosity, too. I pulled over, cutting the engine, and for a moment, the storm swallowed everything. The roar of the rain, the groan of trees bending in the wind, and that low rumble of thunder crawling across the sky. I told myself I'd just take a quick look, just enough to confirm it was nothing. The moment I stepped out, the cold rain slapped against my skin like icy needles. My shoes sank into the mud with each step as I made my way toward the rusted gate. It was half off its hinges, leaning forward like it didn't want to stand anymore. I pushed it open, wincing as the metal screeched in protest. Inside, the air felt heavier. The storm was all around me, but here in the graveyard, it was muffled, as though the rain was falling slower, the thunder more distant. The glow I'd seen had vanished. But then I heard it. Not the storm, not the wind, something else. A faint voice carried between the tombstones, low, whispering. I froze. My heart started to pound so hard it drowned out the sound of the rain. The voice came again, clearer this time. A woman's voice, and she was crying. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to get into my car and drive until that place was nothing more than a shadow in the rearview mirror. But I stepped deeper in, past the tilted stones and moss-eaten crosses. The ground was soft, sucking at my shoes. The smell of wet earth and decaying leaves filled the air. My flashlight beam cut through the storm, landing on names so worn down by time they were barely legible. Each one felt like an intrusion, as though the dead were watching me read them. Then I saw her. At the far end, near the tree line, a figure knelt in the mud. Her hair clung to her face, soaked by the storm, and her shoulders shook with quiet sobs. She was dressed in something pale, though the rain had stained it dark. I opened my mouth to call out, but no sound came. Instead, she lifted her head slowly, like she'd been waiting for me all along. Her eyes caught the beam of my light, 2 pinpoints of reflection, unblinking. And then she smiled. Not the kind of smile you give a stranger. Number. This smile was stretched too wide, pulling against her face, her teeth catching the glow like broken glass. Before I could react, the storm seemed to roar all at once, thunder cracking overhead so violently the ground trembled beneath me. The lights from nearby houses went dark in the distance, swallowed by the storm, and for a moment I was completely cut off. When I swung the light back, she was gone, but the sobbing hadn't stopped. It was closer now, behind me. I didn't think. I ran. My feet slipped in the mud. The rain blinded me, but I didn't care. I bolted toward the gate, my chest burning, every nerve screaming that something was right at my back. I didn't look over my shoulder until I was in the car with the doors locked. The graveyard was still. No figure, no glow, just stone markers half swallowed by weeds. I might have convinced myself I'd imagined it all, if not for what I saw on my windshield. Handprints, dozens of them, pressed into the glass from the outside. Long, dripping streaks as though something had dragged its fingers across while I ran. And through the downpour, I heard that voice one last time, a whisper, curling just beneath the storm. Don't leave me here. End of story 1, cliffhanger.
I used to think night walks in the woods were peaceful, a chance to clear your mind, listen to the rain on the leaves, and breathe in air that felt untouched by the city. But that night, it was past midnight, with the storm swelling overhead. I learned the woods don't belong to you. They never did. They belong to the shadows that move when you're not looking. And once you hear them following you, it's already too late. It was a Saturday night, early autumn, the kind of evening where the air is cool but heavy with the smell of wet earth. I had just argued with my roommate, slamming the door behind me and grabbing my jacket. I needed space, somewhere quiet, and the woods behind our house had always been that place. The rain had been steady all day, leaving the path slick and soft, but I didn't care. I put on my headphones, pulled my hood tight, and started down the familiar trail with a flashlight in hand. The forest was alive with the storm, the hiss of rain through the canopy, the occasional crack of branches bending under the weight of water, the distant growl of thunder rolling across the hills. My flashlight beam danced ahead, catching the reflective eyes of a deer once or twice before they bounded silently into the black. For a while, it was peaceful. My breath synced with the rhythm of raindrops dripping from the leaves. The mud squelched underfoot, and the world outside, the fight, the stress, the suffocating silence of home, seemed far away. But then I noticed something odd. When I stopped walking, the forest didn't. At first, I thought it was the rain, but beneath the hiss of water, I heard footsteps, wet, heavy. A beat behind mine, echoing like a second set of legs trying to mask their pace. I spun around, flashlight beam slicing through dripping branches and tangled brush. Nothing, just the slick trail glistening under the storm. I told myself it was an animal, maybe a deer trailing close, or some stray dog. But the deeper I went, the louder it became, always behind me, never ahead. The path twisted and narrowed, and the trees grew denser. The rain soaked my hood and plastered my hair to my face, but I kept walking faster, refusing to look back again. Then the smell hit me. Rot, thick, sour, unmistakable, like wet leaves that had been left to fester, but stronger, sharper, crawling down my throat. It clung to the rain-soaked air, refusing to fade no matter how deep I breathed. I slowed. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I swept the beam across the woods. That's when I noticed it. A shape crouched low between two trees. At first, I thought it was just another fallen branch, but it shifted, slowly. The shape stretched upward, unfolding into something tall, too tall for a man. Its arms hung too long, fingers grazing the wet earth as it tilted its head toward me. I froze. The rain seemed to stop, sound hollowing out, until all I could hear was my own pulse. And then, laughter. Not loud, not playful. A raspy, broken chuckle, as though its throat had been filled with gravel. I staggered backward, slipping in the mud, but my flashlight stayed pinned to it. Its face was pale, washed out, almost featureless, except for the eyes. Black sockets that seemed to sink deeper than they should, drinking in all the light around them. The thing stepped forward, its body lurching like its joints didn't fit right. Each movement made the smell worse, filling my mouth with bile. That was enough. I turned and ran. My shoes tore through the mud, my breath burning in my chest. The storm swallowed me whole, thunder crashing like the sky itself was splitting open. But I knew, I felt, it was following. Every time my foot splashed into the mud, there was another splash behind me. Heavier, closer. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The trail twisted sharply, leading down toward the creek. I nearly fell headfirst into the rushing water, catching myself on the slick rocks. My flashlight beam flickered as I scrambled to the other side. That's when I heard it again. The laughter, louder now, right behind me. I pushed forward, branches clawing at my jacket, mud pulling at my legs. My flashlight finally gave out, plunging me into darkness so complete that I could only follow the vague, pale outlines of the trail. The smell of rot was everywhere. It pressed against me, clinging like invisible hands. And then, I swear on everything, I felt breath against my neck. Hot, damp, wrong. I broke through the tree line, stumbling into the field behind my house. My chest heaved, my vision spun, but I didn't stop until I slammed through my own back door. When I looked out the window, the woods were silent, empty. But on the glass, pressed against the rain-soaked pane, was a handprint, too large to be human. Fingers too long, trailing downward in streaks. And faintly, over the sound of the rain, I heard that chuckle again. Low, patient, waiting. End of story 2, cliffhanger finish.